In my last video, we did a bunch of Gorgo garrison testing. In fact, I live streamed it the moment that she landed in game, and our results were pretty mediocre, unlike when Justinian landed in the game and he just destroyed everything. Gorgo does not work that way. In fact, we wanted to see if there's perhaps a more nuanced use for her where once you figure it out, once you unlock it, she's actually really good. And that's exactly what we discovered. So stick around in this video for much more detailed test results with repeat trials where we figured out, hey, wait a minute, here is exactly how you use Gorgo to get some really crazy results. And some of that, spoiler alert, I concluded in the last video that she would be really good against swarms, and I'm going to actually tier out which garrison is the very best anti-swarm you can do with Gorgo, and which one is actually kind of the worst. So stick around in this video for some new Gorgo conclusions with some additional testing that I think will prove that she is a valuable garrison to have in your kingdom. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and as you may recall from my live stream where we were doing testing, our Gorgo test results were fine but not amazing, which brought us back to the drawing board. And we said, look, what could be making these results not match what we expected? And there was a couple things that we talked about in my last video that we wanted to further explore. And there's several things I've actually talked about many times in other videos that also were worth exploring. First of all, we only ran one trial with pretty much each of these garrisons, and that leaves a lot of information potentially to be desired. I mean, it could just be randomly performing worse. The next thing that we evaluated, and as I mentioned in the video, is okay, we have good equipment, but it's actually not perfect and equal for both sides. So let's make sure that in this go round, we match that up 100% one for one. For example, full crit infantry gear. We didn't have for Gorgo, 75 out of 100 on the freaking crit. For the first round of testing, in this new round of testing, we used this sort of full meta gear, which I can show you, in fact, on one of my commanders. I've probably got that set up right over, nope, not on this one. Hold up, we've got this right over here, almost, except you'd have a crit horn, right? So perfect meta gear. And the last thing that we talked about is Desperate Elegy, the talent. And I also want to elaborate on this quite a bit because in a test scenario, even if you had the talent, Desperate Elegy only kicks in when your garrison is at 30% health or lower. So this is from the defense tree. It's right over here. Troops led by this commander, when they're reduced below 30% of units remaining, they gain an extra 25 rage from each normal attack, which is actually crazy. So in this rally situation, this talent would be insane in a longer running fight, but in a short fight, it wouldn't have much of an impact anyways, which is going to skew the testing. Oh, and there is one final thing that would make the test results look weaker than what you would expect to get in KVK, and that is armaments. In these tests, we don't actually have any armaments in play because we're in an Ark of Osiris practice match. But I will remind you that the sort of smite damage, which is enhanced by normal attack boosts, is really insane with all of the arch armaments that you can get. So although I don't have any of those, the arch armaments and crazy legendary inscriptions disproportionately will benefit smite damage. So what I'm trying to say is there's a bunch of reasons that we wanted to address. Some of them we can, others we couldn't, around why might these results not match what we expect. And as soon as we started to isolate for all those things, everything except pretty much the armaments here and inscriptions, we started to see some results that I think make more sense and point to, unlike, I would say, Justinian, who just dominated everything, a clear role for Gorgo that is actually super important. So let me go to those test results and show you what I'm talking about. So the first thing we did is we doubled down on the Zeno Gorgo combo. And the reason we doubled down on that combo is because it seemed to be doing the best. So let's put the actual best gear on that combo, mess around with the talents a bunch, and see if we can get better results. And here you can see we got a pretty close result, but still favoring the Zeno Gorgo. Now, I just want to remind you that Nevsky Justinian just destroys everything. So the fact that we can go slightly positive at all against the Nevsky Justinian is starting to move things in the right direction. The next thing, by the way, is we tested infantry against it, and Zeno Gorgo crushed Tariq ibn Ziyad with Sargon the Great. And we did another one over here, and boom, we got a nice positive result. Not insane, but a positive result with Zeno Gorgo against Nevsky Justinian. Now, the Desperate Elegy talent situation doesn't apply here. That only works when Gorgo is the primary. And all the Gorgo primary garrisons didn't seem to do as well as this Zeno-Gorgo combo. So we are getting some slightly positive results here. These are nice for the Zeno-Gorgo. And then we started to throw archers at it. So Boudica Zhuge Liang, I wouldn't expect to do amazingly well. It's not actually meta and doesn't mitigate the smite, or it doesn't mitigate skill damage. So, like, I don't know. It's a rally we ran 215 to 173. It is losing against infantry. So infantry with Gorgo is beating the archers here. And we ran it again. Big win. So this starts to bring us to the more creative stuff. What if you use a Gilgamesh Zhuge Liang? And this matches what we saw in my video that I released about a month ago, where they were using Gilgamesh as the primary. Gilgamesh actually counters Gorgo in like the weirdest way, especially when paired with Zeno. So first of all, Gilgamesh does damage to Zeno whenever she heals. She heals a couple times, actually, so this is a big deal. And Gilgamesh reduces the normal attack damage he takes, which you may recall from VIP chats. Basically, they were saying that you can reduce the smite damage you take by reducing the normal attack damage you take. Well, Gilga reduces the smite damage he takes by 15%. That's from his expertise skill. So yeah, against Gorgo, that works really well. So we actually have a way with archers to counter bringing Gilgamesh back in the mix. Okay, and we ran that again, 218,000 to 202,000. So it doesn't necessarily hard counter, right? We wanted to run things multiple times in this sort of round of testing and narrow the focus on this particular garrison combo. But like, it starts to show that I think a more clear picture of how you use the Gorgo garrison. And I think we'll get to the swarming piece of the puzzle in just a minute. But what I take away from this is that Zeno Gorgo can beat, but isn't guaranteed to beat, pretty much every rally that's going to be sent against it, but is going to struggle against Gilgamesh archers. So archers do counter infantry. We would like expect this to be a thing. And it is funny how much of a technical play Gilgamesh is. So if this rally gets swarmed or sent against you, you need to swarm this rally or you will trade negatively. So if Zeno Gorgo can do well, but not insane, against most rallies and has a vulnerability against the Gilgamesh, that's solvable. You swarm it. How does this do in a swarm context? Okay. And I want to start to show that. By the way, when you bring in the Henry with Gilgamesh, it does fine, but not amazing. 168 to 188. So a win for the Gilgamesh. And I want to get to swarming in a minute because like this particular picture, I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit, is going to be kind of nutty. You are looking at a simulation of a very long-running rally with Gorgo and Charles Martel. And it does well against the rally, and it decimates swarms. So Desperate Elegy is super relevant if you don't think you're going to get swarmed. If you're getting swarmed, that talent does nothing for you. Like generating rage when you're already rage capping literally does nothing. I've covered that in a bunch of videos. Card will be up in the top. So now I want to address the swarm sort of vulnerability or strength of this garrison. Like, is it good against a swarm? We know that it can be good against most rallies, and the rallies it's weak against, you probably try to swarm. But although Gilgamesh Henry might wreck you if you try to swarm it, here's how things do against a swarm. First, we tried a fully geared up crit iconic Hera YSS. And Hera YSS did okay against a big swarm, but not amazing. 335,000 sevs for the garrison to 306,000 sevs for all the attackers put together. And we basically ran the same swarms over and over against a garrison, okay? In the next report, we tried Hera YSS again, 373 to 436. So this time it traded positive. Like I said, like you need to run these things multiple times because there's a lot of variability. So then we tried Zeno Hera. And this did okay, right? 307 to 327. Not amazing. We've shown before that Zeno Hera is like weak to rallies, but solid against swarms. So then we ran it again, 303 to 304, right? Like, not amazing. Now, I know you're here for Gorgo, so let's get to that. Zeno Gorgo traded nice and positive, 328 to 439. So like I've been saying, although Gorgo wasn't this like massive leap forward like Justinian was from a rally perspective, the area where she really elevates things is in the anti-swarm. So 328 to 439 is a great result. And then we ran it again, 313 to 500. So now it becomes a little bit more clear what the Zeno Gorgo and the Gorgo in general is doing. She's like, with the right combo, only with the right combo, she's a moderate improvement in your garrisoning capability against a rally, but a big improvement in your garrison capability against a swarm. Right now, it's becoming more clear what her role is here. So then we ran it again, 286 to 546. So this is really impressive as a series of results. And then we ran Gorgo Hera. Hey, this is pretty good too. 297 to 552. And then Gorgo Hera again, 279 to 574. So Gorgo Hera is actually worse against rallies, but better against swarms, which I mean, it makes sense, right? So the Zeno Hera is like your best all-arounder, in my opinion, for doing well against a rally and crushing a swarm. You could do worse against the rally with the Gorgo Hera, but you will crush the swarm even more with this particular combo. Of course, we've been watching the 1960 KVK, like I'm sure you've been watching as well, and 1V brought in a very technical play, swapping in a Charles Martel. I believe it was Charles Hera was the garrison, and they were crushing swarmers because against 1960, like, yeah, they're just going to swarm. So does Gorgo Charles work? Yeah, this is actually the best result. We took slightly more Sev wounds, but dealt way more Sev wounds. So 310 to 697. So what does this tell you, right? Well, if we scroll way back, I showed you this Desperate Elegy result. Remember? This is a simulator result, so this is not actually in Rise of Kingdoms, but it should be very close to reality. And what this is telling you is that actually, with the right talents, Gorgo Charles can do okay against a rally too. This is very important to understand. What I'm trying to say here is that with the right talents, with the right Gorgo combos, she is going to do fine against rallies and do really well against swarms. That's the point. So while, again, it was just kind of unclear from the testing, like, unlike when we had Justinian and she just dominated everything we rallied with, this situation with Gorgo is much more nuanced. She's actually really, really good. And the way in which she's good is using her with the right pairing to handle swarming, or you just run Zeno Gorgo, which I think is the best overall. It is really solid against a rally and can beat Justinian. It's not guaranteed, but it can, which is a big deal. And you're going to crush swarmers. And what's really crazy, if you're really sophisticated, you use two different captains. You use a captain when they're swarming, you use a captain when they're not swarming. Both of them would probably involve Gorgo, but I don't know that most teams are going to kind of be that sophisticated, but like, you could be. And if you were, like, actually the really technical play might actually be Gorgo Charles Martel if you're getting crazy swarmed. I know it sounds weird, but like, here we are, and it's actually a possibility. And it's kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy that this is where we're at. So ultimately, this means there are a bunch of different talent builds you could use for Gorgo, especially if you're using her as the primary. I'm going to show you this using Martel because he's got the exact same talent trees. But if you only cared about the swarm, really, like you're just really worried about getting swarmed like crazy, this build I think is pretty good. So we go and we get sort of the base garrison talents, and we make sure that we get Hold the Line. Now, this only works if you're not using mixed troops with a Hera. So if you're using mixed troops, you'd carve off these talent points and put them other places. Although there aren't a bunch of amazing points to sort of deploy still. You could maybe get a point over here. You get a little bit of stats over here. But if you have all infantry, you have a 10% chance to reduce damage taken by 20% for the next 2 seconds after being attacked. So I think the more people attacking you, the more triggers you get on this, which seems really good if that is true. So I would run with probably this build or a slight variant when you're getting swarmed like crazy with Gorgo. And if you wanted sort of a rally build where you really want to crush the rally coming at you, I think something like this is probably the play, where Desperate Elegy, I want to say just makes a lot of sense to get. 25 rage per second is nutty. And from there, you actually have like truly several options. Like you could go with this rage generation approach over here. Something I think I might even like more as we reset that. We go and we get these points over here, these points over here. We get Desperate Elegy because obviously we really want the rage. We want the health that you can get over here. If you're getting rallied by cavalry, then I feel like you really need to get these talent points, but you can free those up if you aren't, and that's important to mention. You can go over here, boom, and get skill damage taken reduction. This is probably better, in fact. And if you felt like if you weren't getting rallied by cavalry, you could take these 5 points and instead put them into balance, right? So you actually have some options if what you think is going to happen is you're not going to get swarmed at all. You just purely want to crush a rally. There's options here. So Gorgo is kind of weird because I think you actually are going to switch between a bunch of different talent builds. And before I show you some Gorgo open field results that are really preliminary, like I want to go in and do a live stream. She is looking really good. I do want to highlight for one moment just what you can do with your Zeno. And for Zeno talents, here is one option you can run that I think is pretty solid. Another option here is to carve a few points away on rage, because like if you're getting swarmed, you don't care about this. So you take Undying Fury and you probably take counterattack. When healed, troops by this commander will have their attack increased by 9% for 3 seconds. And if you just want to live, you go in and get hold the line. So if this is going to be a full infantry garrison with Zeno Gorgo, I actually think what you would do, and like, man, I got all kinds of builds here. Wow. I got city swarm builds. I got flag builds. Dude, what am I doing with my life? Is you go get emergency protection. You actually don't even need rejuvenate. Oh man, this gets really weird. Like if you really want to get funky, you could actually skip rejuvenate entirely. Oh wow. I mean, sure, you'd get hold the line. Let's get really funky. You could actually do some crazy stuff here. You get these points over here, just like pure anti-swarm madness. I like clapping the calves. This seems really good. I guess I'd go over here and get the attack when I heal. And now I even have points left over, which is really weird. Like, this is such a strange build, but like, I don't think you even need this rage. So if you don't need this rage at all, actually, I mean, at that point, you just go and you get stats. Which is just, again, this feels so weird to even recommend at all. But like, yeah, you just get stats here. You get stats over there. Right? Like, there's a couple places you can go. Wow. Weird. This is an option. I would even need to look into Kingsguard at that point and say, wait a minute, like, should I actually just get unironically Kingsguard? 3 points for 3% is pretty good for attack, defense, and health. Wait, are we actually getting Kingsguard here? This is weird, but you could do it. I know that sounds insane. I feel insane suggesting it. But here we are. Are we getting Kingsguard? A crazy, high-tech, anti-swarm build. I think this actually would work. And then, wow, we go Kingsguard? And with 4 points left over, we get counterattack. Oh my god, we did it. So if you are going to get 12x swarmed, I unironically think this might be the best build. I know that seems crazy, but like, dude, Kingsguard, 3 points for 9% of stats. Okay, and I get that you get, garbage over here, but like, if you're rage capping anyways, which I think you are with a 12x swarm, no matter what you do, dude, wreck the swarm. So, okay, this is enough theory crafting. This particular build was not tested for swarming, but I would actually love to see it. I would love to see it. I think this would not do well against a rally, by the way. I do not think this is what you want against a rally. You really need the rage from Rejuvenate and all the other good things you get along the way. And honestly, Hasty Departure is nice for moving around to get into the garrison. So this is really honing in on like the one thing you're trying to do. And that is defend a stronghold garrison against a swarm with a Zeno Gorgo. But enough about that. Let me show you these open field results. All right, so keep in mind that at this point, Peace is testing with garrison talents. Okay, these are the garrison talents. She battled against a Huo Nevsky and lost, but only by 3,000 sevs with a Gorgo Liu Che. Here, this is another Huo Nevsky. Is this the same result twice? No, it's almost identical, though. It's kind of crazy. Then the next result against Boudica Artemisia just destroyed it. Okay, 21,700 to 37,000. Then over here against a Boudica Zuge, 27,000 to 35,000. Now, look, I can't speak to the gear on all sides here. I can only know that Peace's gear is actually just, the meta, crazy stuff. Here's another Huo with Nevsky. These results are actually very close. 2,000 sev differential here. Here is, dude, this is crazy. This has got to be a gear issue, right? Like the Skippy Liu Che losing by more than double, 19,500 to 48,900. I don't know what the gear was, which is why we're going to do a separate live stream, probably tomorrow during the day, where we go and we test open field. That's my game plan. We do some open field testing with field talents on Gorgo and just see how she does. Because I'm actually expecting she's going to be super strong. So we'll find out. So subscribe if you haven't already to see exactly how she performs. I'm pretty hyped to see that with all this additional testing, we were able to kind of find a role for Gorgo. And it's that she will, I think, win against the Justinian, which is the scariest rally. She has a vulnerability to Gilgamesh that you're going to have to like swarm or deal with. And Gilga Henry could be a problem. But she's really good against swarms. And like your best anti-swarm garrison possibly in the game is going to be Gorgo with Charles in that order. You may think, what about flipping it around the other way? That'd be a mistake. I think the reason is that Gorgo reduces the rage requirement by a small amount, but to 900. So Gorgo still has Charles Martel's buff active for doing extra damage by the time her rage cycle comes around. So in other words, normally you want Charles to be the primary so that you buff the damage you deal with his active skill, then do big skill damage. Well, what I'm saying is that Gorgo will do her skill damage, then Charles will buff, and that buff for increased damage will still be around by the time Gorgo does her next skill damage. So yeah, Gorgo with Martel, best anti-swarm in the game, I think. Followed by the Gorgo Hera, followed by, I think, Zeno Gorgo, which is like still really good. And all that is, I think, beating the YSS Hera. But the beauty of like YSS and Hera together, or Hera YSS, depending on how you run that, is that combo is just so flexible. Like you just put anything in there. So that's the value of that garrison, and it is very good anti-swarm. But anyways, if you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, consider subscribing. If you want to see the last vid where we were like, hey, these test results are not as impressive as we thought, card will be in the end screen to see kind of what happened there. And then also card in the end screen in just a second for the live stream where we were doing a bunch of that Gorgo testing. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.